Okay, if you just saw Logan and you did not walk out completely blown away, I have one thing to say to you. So Logan tells the story of a way past his prime Wolverine that goes on one final adventure after meeting a very mysterious young girl. This is the 10th X-Men movie, the 3rd Wolverine side story, and the final time that we're going to see Hugh Jackman portray the character of Logan. Oh, it's so sad to say those words out loud because, people, this is not only one of the best comic book movies I've ever seen, it's not only the best X-Men movie that's out there, this is the best that we've seen Hugh Jackman be in the role of Logan and Wolverine. And it's the last time we're going to see it. Why? Now, the story in Logan is easily the most grounded, the most gritty, and the most downscaled story that we have seen in the X-Men film universe yet, and it totally works to this film's advantage because that's the tone that they're going for with the story and the tone of Logan. They're trying to go for this gritty, grounded tale, and that is exactly what you get. I really liked how this story kind of slowly evolved throughout the runtime. You start off and you're getting introduced to this past his prime Wolverine, to this dying Professor X, and it really just seems like you're waiting for these characters to perish. And then they get thrown into this situation with this new girl and it becomes a road movie. There's a little bit of some post-apocalyptic flavor in there. There's a little bit of comic book flavor in there, mostly dealing with this group of mercenaries chasing down Logan and Patrick Stewart and X-23. But really the movie's not even about that struggle. It's not about them trying to escape the villain. It's more about Logan facing himself and facing his mortality and really trying to rediscover his heroism, trying to rediscover why he became Wolverine in the first place, why he tried to save so many people throughout this film franchise, why he tries to be the good side of Wolverine. And it was pretty incredible seeing him go through that transformation. Really, it was like they were trying to get Logan to kind of rediscover himself and get back to where he was morally and heroically in the beginning so that he could end. And that's why this movie has the perfect title. This is not the X-Men, this is not the Wolverine, this is Logan, and it's because this movie is about who Logan is. Underneath all the bloodshed, underneath all the pain, underneath all the larger-than-life stories that he has gone through, and the legend that is the Wolverine, who is Logan, what is Logan, down to his soul. You know, when you hear a lot of people talk about amazing performances in comic book movies, you often hear the same names. You hear Heath Ledger's Joker, you hear about Robert Downey as Iron Man, but you know what? Hugh Jackman beats all of them for his portrayal of Wolverine. Not only does he just live and breathe the character of Logan and Wolverine, but he's been playing this guy for 17 years. And I'm thinking about it, and not just escaping comic book movies for a bit, I can't think of another actor that is dedicated so much to one singular character like Hugh Jackman has to Wolverine. From the first time that we got to see this guy, just in that cage fight, when he turns around with a cigar and just has that animalistic look to him, we're just like, that's him. And through all the ups and downs that this X-Men film franchise has been through, with some really great movies and some really shitty movies, the one constant in all of it is Hugh Jackman is always amazing as Logan. And what I just saw was Hugh Jackman take all of the 17 years of experience that he's had with this character and end it on the highest note possible. I'll tell you what, people, this is going to be one of the hardest roles ever to try and recast because, like the old saying says, you can't top perfection. It's going to be hard to talk about anything else in this review, guys, because what Hugh Jackman just delivered was nothing short of an amazing performance. I mean, this guy, this is the Wolverine that he has been wanting to give us from the time he first put on the claws. This is easily the most human that we've seen Wolverine. He's facing his own mortality. He's facing living a life where he just constantly sees all of his loved ones die around him and he just outlives everybody. And he's facing himself in this movie just as much as he's facing the outside influences and the villains in the story. It's also the most insane that we've seen Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. 2 words, people: berserker rage. I was not prepared for how bloody and violent this movie was going to be. For those of you that wanted a rated R Wolverine, you got it. Logan went way beyond just seeing Wolverine stab a bunch of guys with his claws. You get to see limbs taken off, people get decapitated, you see so much carnage in this. It's wonderful. Granted, it's not something you need to see with every single comic book character, but this does really excite me for what doors this movie might open for some rated R comic book movies going forward. But as much as I'd love to talk about Hugh Jackman for another 25 minutes, there's another actor that we are saying goodbye to in a beloved role. This is Patrick Stewart's final performance as Professor X. We get to see a much different shade of his version of Professor X in this movie. You know, there's a very different style between James McAvoy's Professor X and Patrick Stewart's Professor X. And the Patrick Stewart Professor X that we get to see in Logan is like a third shade. He's a much more grounded, a much more gritty and realistic version of Professor X. He's weathered. He's been through some shit just like Logan has. Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart have always had great chemistry with each other in these movies, but it was firing on all cylinders in this. The humor is great back and forth. There's a lot of really, really gut punch emotional moments in this between those two characters. And it's a really bittersweet send-off for both of them because you've been with both of them for almost 17 years, and it just feels like a fitting way to end both of those characters and to send off both of those actors' portrayals with each other. Now, the new character that we're introduced to in this movie is X-23, played by Daphne Keane. And you know what? In a movie where it's really built on not only nostalgia and not only this bittersweet send-off for these two actors that we've been with for so long, and we're really focusing on them, I was focusing just as much on X-23. She was a great character. Not only was she just as badass as Wolverine, but from the second she walks onto the screen, you're interested in her, you're intrigued by her, you like her, you think she's cool, and you really want to see what's going to go on between her and Wolverine and Professor X. And that says a lot about this little girl's performance, because for the first 2/3 of this movie, she doesn't even say a word. I don't know if we're going to get to see more of X-23. I don't know if she's going to continue on in this franchise, if she's going to be part of the New Mutants, or if we're going to see her in some further X-Men anthology movies. But I love her character, and I want to see more of her. And she fits right in with Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart without missing a single beat. She has the chemistry with those two, almost like she's been around since the beginning of this franchise. Now, the villains in this movie are a group of mercenaries called Reavers. Their leader is called Donald Pierce, and he's played by Boyd Holbrook. And he's a really cool villain. He's not really like this big, larger-than-life villain that we're used to seeing in the X-Men franchise. He's not a mutant. He's not somebody who has like all these powers and this grand world-ending scheme. He's just a small little villain that works for this small movie. And the way that his villain is used is much more close to what the MCU does with their villains, where it's more of a plot device that's used to propel the story forward. You're not really supposed to focus too much on the villain. He's not supposed to overtake the heroes, and they executed that really well in this, because he's not really somebody that you're going to walk away thinking, man, he was such a badass villain, but he was used really well to propel the story to where it needed to go for Logan, Professor X, and X-23. And Boyd Holbrook does really good in the role. Now, aside from all the great performances and characters that we've got in this movie, the other biggest star of Logan is James Mangold. Now, this guy has directed some damn good movies in his lifetime. He directed Copland with Sylvester Stallone, a really, really underrated cop movie. He directed 3:10 to Yuma, the remake with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale, one of the best westerns that I've seen in a long time. I really enjoyed his previous X-Men movie, The Wolverine, even though the third act kind of fell apart, but really, his direction in this movie, as flawless as it is, makes me really wonder what we would have gotten out of the Wolverine had he had the gloves taken off and was able to make the movie he wanted to make, which is clearly what he did with Logan, because not only did he direct this movie, but he came up with the core story of the movie, and he also co-wrote the script with two other people, so this is really James Mangold's brainchild. And what I appreciated the most about his direction in this movie, aside from the amazing action scenes, aside from getting some of the best performances that we've seen in a long time, and especially in this franchise, but he uses a lot of really, really subtle details in his filmmaking in this movie, which I love. There's a lot of subtext. There's a lot of little minute details that aren't really shoved in your face. They give you just enough information, just a little bit of a nugget to give you an idea, and they let you fill in the rest of the blanks yourself. And I love movies that do that, because too often nowadays we get movies where they just feel like they have to over-explain everything. And I really liked how he set this story in a dystopian future that doesn't go too over the top with the dystopian thing. It's not really like a big post-apocalyptic world like Mad Max Fury Road. It's not super futuristic. It feels like modern times for the most part, but there's just subtle little things thrown in there, like these little automatic semi-trucks that go down the road that's futuristic, and the fact that mutants aren't around anymore. This is taking place in a time where mutants are all but dead. Some kind of event happened that wiped out almost all of the mutants, and another one of those subtle details I was talking about, they don't tell you exactly what happened. They give you enough a little bit of information throughout the movie to kind of figure it out for yourself or come up with some kind of an idea yourself, and that's all you need. We don't need it to be spelled out for us, and I'm glad they didn't. Above all else, one thing that James Mangold really nailed in this movie is the pacing, because not only is this some of the best pacing that I've seen in a comic book movie, it's some of the best pacing I've seen in a movie in a long time. It opens up with this awesome scene that just grabs you by the throat, lets you know what kind of a Logan movie you're in for, and you were just along for the ride. And you have some great action scenes, you got some really emotional moments, and the movie just continuously rejuvenates its energy throughout the runtime of this movie. It just rejuvenates the audience's interest in this story and these characters, all the while maintaining the fact that it is a very grounded and gritty story. At not one point in this movie does it jump the shark and go off into the stupid territory like the last 15 minutes of the Wolverine. Logan stays on course from the time it starts to the time the credits roll. And when those credits roll, people, I don't care what kind of preparation you went through, what kind of counseling, what kind of group therapy you had before you walked into Logan, when that title screen comes on and the credits roll, and you realize this is the last time you're going to see Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, this is the last time you're going to see Patrick Stewart's Professor X, you're going to shed some tears. So on that note, to wrap all this up, guys, Logan is not only one of the best comic book movies I've ever seen, it's one of the best movies that I've ever seen. This is not your typical comic book movie. It almost seems like it's doing the movie a bit of a disservice to put it in the comic book movie genre, because this is something entirely different. This is the best performance you're going to see from Hugh Jackman in his long 17-year reign as Wolverine. This is the best performance you're going to see from Patrick Stewart in his long 17-year reign as Professor X. We got a great new character in X-23 who I'm really crossing my fingers we get to see going forward in the further X-Men movies, because she was badass. And above anything else, it's just really great to walk into a movie with this big sense of finality in these characters that you have spent almost 17 years with, and you not only walk away satisfied, but you walk away completely enthralled. So grab some popcorn, some drinks, and a box of tissues, and be prepared to be amazed by the incredible movie that is Logan. And once you're done checking it out in theaters, definitely go out and buy it. So what did you guys think of Logan? Do you think this is a great way to send off Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman as these characters? Is this the best X-Men movie and the best comic book movie that you've seen in a long time? Or were you disappointed in it? Put all of your thoughts on Logan, Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, X-Men, Wolverine, Professor X, anything that you want to talk about regarding Logan in the comment section below, and we'll talk about it. Please like and share this video and hit that subscribe button. That way you get to come back and see me next time. But if that's not soon enough to check out some more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.